Good day. My name's Dominic Stewart. I'm a lecturer at the University of Trento, and I'm an Englishman in Italy. And I'm going to inform you in a humorous way about some aspects of Italian life. So let's begin with eating. Dinner invitations. If you are invited to dinner at an Italian's house, do not arrive at the appointed hour, as this is a sign of poor breeding. Ring the doorbell precisely 15 minutes after the agreed time, even if that means waiting in the street. Do not arrive empty-handed. Italians are generous, both as hosts and guests. Wine, ice cream, and/or flowers are good. If the invitation is in October, November, remember that chrysanthemums, in Italy associated with graveyards and All Souls, are not good. If you do take chrysanthemums, your hosts will raise their eyebrows and stammer, molto gentile, very good of you, prior to throwing them into the corner of the garden when you're not looking. Should you be offered a glass of chilled, sweet peach tea, do not exclaim, "This fruit juice is delicious." If you are male, do not offer to clear the table or help with the dishes. If you do so, then your hostess, following a moment of astonishment, may well look daggers at her husband, her expression to be interpreted as, "See, he offers to help in the kitchen and he doesn't even live here." Said husband will either quickly change the subject or find an excuse to leave the room. Unless he is very stupid, he will probably not reply, "No worries, my wife will do it," though during the meal you may be struck by the way this man, while shoving another forkful of pasta into his mouth and with his bottom nailed to his chair, shamelessly instructs his wife to get up and fetch more water, more serviettes, more bread, etc. from the kitchen. If you are invited to inspect the range of wines in the cellar, where you will also see 50 bottles of olive oil, 100 kilos of pasta, 200 bottles of water, and 300 bottles of pasta sauce, be advised that this is perfectly normal. Do not ask if your hosts are stocking up for a nuclear winter. If you ask to use the bathroom, the result will be a good deal of commotion. Your hostess will spring from her seat in order, 1, to make sure the bathroom is tidy, 2, to fetch a freshly laundered hand towel, 3, to bleach the wash basin, and 4, oddly enough, to flush the toilet. It is useless to point out that all you need is a quick pee. In any case, the hostess's angst is completely unmerited. An Italian bathroom is generally straight out of an ideal home exhibition, a magnificent, spotless, resplendent environment in which you would happily host the members of your bridge club for tea and custard tarts. Should you, a non-Italian, think of inviting Italians to dinner at your house, the most sensible advice is, think again. Why? Because although Italians can boast some of the most creative and delicious cuisine in the world, they are generally apprehensive about non-Italian food. If you go through with the invitation, then as you prepare a selection of dishes from your own country, your guests' eyes will keep darting around the kitchen as if expecting you to produce roast platypus on toast with a side plate of stinging nettles. Once the food is served, Italians will have the good grace not to criticize it. But all through the meal, they will have an anxious, melancholy look about them, as if awaiting execution by a firing squad. If some Italian friends are on holiday in your country, then do not prepare Italian food for them, exclaiming, "This will remind you of home," because it won't. You'll probably overcook the pasta, drown it in sauce, offer ready grated cheese from a tube, use a preposterous salad dressing, spread butter on the bread, serve improbable wine, and prepare substandard coffee. A sure way to traumatize your Italian guests is to serve ravioli with ketchup. Despite the excellence of Italian cuisine, the Italian breakfast is nutritionally suspect, consisting of biscuits or croissants dunked in hot, milky coffee. Having said that, if your Italian guests stay the night at your house, at breakfast, never offer them subtle delicacies such as porridge, sugar puffs, baked beans, fried bacon, or marmite. They will leap out of the window and flee to the nearest border. Discussing food. You should be on red alert if an Italian ever smiles sweetly at you and asks, "What are the culinary specialities in your country?" The subtext of this question is, what type of vile, foreign stodge is classified as food in your country? Sometimes the questions are more specific, particularly when it comes to British food. Is it true that the British don't dress the salad with olive oil and vinegar? Is it true that the British have fish for breakfast? Is it true that the British cook pasta for half an hour? Is it true that the British boil vegetables until they disappear? Is it true that the British eat banana sandwiches? And the unkindest cuts of all, is it true that the British put spaghetti in tins? And is it true that the British eat spaghetti on toast? Sadly, the answer to all the above questions is yes. Incidentally, even if threatened with a gun, do not tell Italians about alphabetti spaghetti. There is, however, a perfect solution to all of the above. When Italians make inquiries about your diet, respond with the magic formula, la pasta asciutta. Literally, dry pasta, but meaning with some type of sauce. The effect is extraordinary. Italians will cease their questions, give you a big, warm hug, and ask if you want to marry their cousin. Restaurants. Do not try to persuade Italians over the age of 50 to visit a foreign food restaurant in Italy. They will spend the meal looking somewhere between panicky and compassionate, and when their teeth get stuck in the fried ice cream, they will vow never to go non-native again. some brief recommendations for when you are invited to a local restaurant in Italy by a group of Italians. Do not arrive at 6 p.m., as you will have to wait at least 2 hours. Ordering dinner should take a minimum of half an hour, affording everyone the time to pepper the waiter with searching and mostly useless interrogatives about the food. For instance, where and when the vegetables were plucked from the ground, the original color of the eggs in the tiramisu, and the breed, provenance, and state of health of the cow that gave life to the mozzarella. For the first 90 minutes of your meal, you should talk only about food. All other topics are prohibited. If you find it boring to discuss meat and fish for half an hour, quality, color, shape, origin, price, good places to buy it, then the best solution is to steer the conversation towards vegetables or polenta. If you tire of vegetables, then desserts, wine, and liqueurs will keep you going for a while. But once the 90 minutes have expired, you may move on to corruption, tax evasion, immigration, price-quality ratios, and Juventus. Interrupt each other constantly. Completion of a sentence means either that nobody's listening or that everyone's gone home. Wave your arms around whenever you open your mouth, even if it means knocking over someone's Chianti or poking them in the ear. Do not order wine with your pizza. Never order pizza as a first course followed by pasta as your main course. This is barbaric Teutonic behavior. Do not slice up your spaghetti with a knife and fork. Do not request a side order of spaghetti and meatballs to go with your risotto. If you mention a speciality from your country, for example, treacle pudding, make sure you know exactly what it's made of. Your Italian dinner companions will ask you what this mysterious treacle is, to which you will probably reply, well, it's sweet and sticky. When pressed for more information, you will think very hard and then announce that it's a sugary, syrupy thing. With rising impatience, your friends will request a translation into Italian, at which you will offer another very blank look. At this point, they will consult their mobile and say, having ascertained that treacle comprises nothing more than sugar and molasses. All the while marveling that this foreign congenital bonehead can cite a speciality from his motherland without knowing what's in it. Toothpicks are always supplied in Italian restaurants, but paradoxically, you should never pick your teeth with them. Unless, that is, you are prepared to go to the bathroom or stick your head under the table. Do not request a cappuccino after your meal. The waiter will react as if you've just taken a pea in the olive oil. Should you ask for a cappuccino with your meal, you will be thrown out of the restaurant and barred entry for life. Italian weddings. Should you ever have the ill fortune to be invited to a wedding in Italy, then invent some unchallengeable excuse, like you were knocked down by an articulated lorry or attacked by a bear. Why? Because an Italian wedding means a church service whose length makes the book of Genesis read like a short story. It means kicking your heels for a further biblical eternity while the bride and groom have their photos taken from every conceivable angle, even lying down. It means sitting all afternoon next to guests that you would happily chop off your leg to avoid, and it means stuffing yourself with 28 courses of food while the livelier participants shriek, "Viva gli sposi!" Long live the newlyweds, every 5 minutes. No show, no entertainment, no music, no dancing, just more food and more shouting, though there may be the occasional joke about the groom having 10 illegitimate children. Before long, you're so stuffed with food that you can't control your tongue or your brain, and you no longer know or care who's getting married because you've fallen asleep with your face in the cuttlefish ink. Local food festivals. Just about every country village in Italy hosts an annual food festival. A grape festival, a peach festival, a rice festival, a mushroom festival, a leek festival, etc. The list goes on and on. If Italian friends invite you to an asparagus festival in a remote village, tell them that you really are terribly sorry, but by an extraordinary coincidence, you'll be emigrating to Greenland on the very day of the celebration. Accepting the invitation means being subjected to jolly village fair music, to geriatric dance routines, and to people with tall white hats being annoyingly cheerful despite the fact that they are working over an enormous container of steaming asparagus. When you sit down to have dinner, you will be served pasta with asparagus sauce for your starter, meat with a side of asparagus for your main course, and grandma's asparagus cake for your dessert with a topping of asparagus ice cream. The short-term consequence of this is that your pee will smell dreadful. The long-term consequence is that you will never eat asparagus again.